Be Hero presents Sheroes.
Hi everyone, Alicia here,
And Amy.
and we are asking the so-called heroes to step aside for a moment so that we can give the Sheroes their turn in the spotlight.
Yes, you heard right. Welcome to Sheroes, a podcast by Be Hero Media.
So just sit back because it's time for the real game changers to show you how it's done.
Now, last week we talked about Selena, and after, publishing the episode, it occurred to us that we never even mentioned which song was our favorite.
Oops.
Well, so we just wanted to let you know. Now, my favorite is probably Como la Flor.
I actually really liked Bitty Bitty Bum Bum. I don't know, it was so fun to listen to.
Yeah, so that is a pretty fun song. Well, moving on, let's get started with this episode and our subject matter for today.
All right, so with the mid-season finale of The Nevers coming out soon,
Which we haven't seen yet.
but we will, we wanted to take a look at another of Joss Whedon's shows that came out in the late 90s.
That's right. This week we're going to talk about Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
If you haven't seen this series by now, we are going to assume that you aren't planning on watching it since it is quite a few years old, but let this be your spoiler warning. Alright, so who is she?
For those of you who haven't heard of or seen the series, Buffy is the current Slayer in a long line of Slayers.
Or is she?
Well, we'll probably bring that up again later.
So as in the name, Buffy is a vampire slayer, but it really extends to all monsters or demons or evil non-human creatures or robots or, the spawn of hell or other such things.
When a Slayer dies, a new Slayer is called, which comes with special powers of strength and agility.
In many cases, a council of watchers has a pretty good idea who the possible slayers are, and oftentimes they will start training them for their possible future responsibilities. That is not the case with Buffy. She may have briefly had a watcher when she was in LA, I can't really recall, but she seemed confused by Giles, so I'm led to believe that not only did the watchers not know about her, she didn't know about them. Of course, all good things must come to an end.
You mean like leaving LA?
No, being assigned a watcher. And she moved to Sunnydale where the king of the vampires is rising.
So no more being a free bird then?
No, not for a while. And as previously mentioned, she had made enough noise for the watchers to discover her existence and send her a watcher in her new hometown.
When Buffy gets the Slayer mantle, she is in high school and she is determined not to let her responsibility as the Slayer destroy her normal life. In a way, it kind of worked, at least for the duration of her high school. But after that, she really embraces her role as the Slayer, and the Slayer becomes her life. I would say that while she does embrace her role as a Slayer, she also really kind of changes what it means to be a Slayer.
Prior to her becoming the Slayer, most Slayers were alone. She involved her friends, and they strengthened each other to make a team of Slayers. Albeit only one superpowered one, but they work together to protect the human race. Another Slayer that we see is pretty much entirely alone. She has her watcher. She says that she was raised by her watcher. I don't recall her having a relationship with her parents. She said that this made her parents proud.
So we wanted to give a couple of examples of how she changed what it meant to be a Slayer, and also highlight how those changes are also some examples of her being a Shero.
In one of the later seasons, when they are facing Adam, a human cyborg monster, in order to defeat him, they discover that she cannot do it alone. So Willow works some magic to get herself, Xander, and Giles combined with Buffy for a super Slayer. They become mind and heart and spirit, but not necessarily in that order. With their combined powers, they defeat Adam. Although it would be both weird and impossible to actually combine powers with someone in this way, we can go to others for help. We can bring our voice to a conversation when addressing an issue. Many problems aren't meant to be solved alone. We see that with this example in a magical way.
Now, I just wanted to add one little thing to this, which you forgot to mention. So it's mind, heart, spirit, and hand.
Oh.
Anyways, I just had to mention it. Another way that she changed what it means to be a slayer, but also is something heroic. With the help of Willow, she created, actually Willow created the spell that would cause all potential slayers become slayers. Like, get the mantle? I don't know. I don't really know how it works, but they all became active. That's a good word. They became active slayers. So no longer would the slayers have to fight the battle alone. In one episode, she goes to Spike, who has killed 2 slayers, and asks him how he killed them both. Now, I can't remember exactly how he put it, but they were ultimately just tired. It was like their loneliness and the battle eventually wore them out, and when they got to that point, it was very easy to kill them. By causing all potential slayers to become full slayers, she and others could train them and help them so that they could potentially also live a long and full life.
One last thing that she changed as far as being a slayer goes is the relationship between the slayer and the watcher. Normally the watcher trained the slayer and gave out orders, never getting their hands dirty. The watchers weren't treating her very good, and she is the one who put her life on the line, facing dangers to protect human life. They kept making demands of her again and again. She had finally had enough, and she fired them. They told her she couldn't do that, but she insisted that unless they wanted to do the slaying themselves, then they would stop giving her orders. She told them maybe it was time they stopped watching and started doing. She was a free bird once more. They eventually convinced her that they should work together, but she made the rules and they agreed to follow them.
And I just wanted to add to this as well that I think that's a great example for us, that sometimes there are going to be people who are trying to do what to do, or there may just be like something in your life and you just need to set boundaries. So anyways, I just wanted to mention that about your example. Now we just wanted to mention a few other examples of being a shero that don't have to do with changing the meaning of being a slayer.
Okay, so one of them that I really love is in one of the episodes, she's been poisoned by some creature's venom. It makes her believe that she's in a mental hospital, which come to find out that she has been in a mental hospital before. Her parents put her in there when she first started doing the slayage, as she calls it. And so this poison, or this venom, it makes her believe that the mental hospital is her real life and her life as the slayer is the fake one. She is told that she needs to kill her friends in order to get better. Now, this is, of course, they're telling her to kill her friends in her mind. So, from the venom, she would believe that she's killing them in her mind, but the reality is she would be killing her friends. This is the first time that we see her father in the show, and her mother, who had recently died, is alive again and keeps telling her that she just wants her to get better. It explains away her supernatural life very convincingly. They mention that her sister, her sister is sort of not real. And they explain that she had to create a whole nother, how do I put it? Her sister was inconsistent with the storyline, so she had to essentially rewrite the storyline in her mind. And ultimately, this is why they're telling her, you have to kill your friends, and it's all in her mind, as they're trying to convince her. So she doesn't have it in her to kill her friends. She captures them, and then she leaves them for a monster to kill. However, when she hears their cries, she decides that even if her supernatural life isn't real, she still can't bear to let her friends die. And I think that is so powerful that even in her mind, she's not willing to.
Yeah, I think that is a pretty cool story. So another episode in the season finale for season 5, The Gift, which when you watch this episode, it's clear that this was supposed to be the final episode of the series, but then they went ahead and created another couple seasons, which, while they had good stuff, I do think it really made sense to end here. But anyways, that's beside the point. So anyways, this episode, she has to battle a goddess from another dimension that's invincible and protect her sister from being killed. Now, her sister is a key that can open the dimension to the goddess's homeworld, and her name's Gloria. And opening this dimension would, while it's open, it would destroy the world. So throughout the season, Buffy battles Gloria and is seeking to figure out how to defeat her. She figures out a few things to defeat Gloria and save her sister. Because Gloria had already started the process, well, I guess it wasn't really Gloria who started the process of opening the dimension, but the dimension was opened, and Buffy knew that the only way to save her younger sister was to take her place, which ended with Buffy's death. I don't know that she had, well, I don't love that she had to die to save her sister, but she sacrificed her life to save her sister and also to save the world.
What is your favorite episode?
Okay, so I want to talk about the musical episode. The first time
It's a great one.
Yeah, so the first time that I watched the episode, I really hadn't seen that much of Buffy. I'm pretty sure I had only seen season 1, and it was like maybe a couple of years earlier when I'd seen it. And you and Emily both were like, "You have to watch this episode. It's amazing." And I watched it, and I just wasn't impressed.
I kind of remember that.
But
I didn't understand how you couldn't love it.
yeah. But now that I've watched all the episodes, my second experience watching this musical episode was quite different. I was connected to the characters, and it was powerful. This whole season is a fascinating one because Buffy was just brought back to life, and she is struggling. She's struggling to feel really anything. This episode highlights her struggles in a beautiful way that I think many people can relate to. There's really no easy way out of this pain either. It continues to be difficult for her for much of the season. I'm not entirely sure when she's able to move on, and I don't recall it being anything specific, but I believe it's really just what Spike said when they're singing together at the end of the episode, that the pain that she feels can only be healed by living. And the episode, and that's ultimately what happened. So yeah, like I mentioned, this is a musical episode where the characters are singing about really anything, but it's very honest and raw. I mean, it does cause some problems and challenges, but it ends in kind of a funny way where it turns out that it was actually Xander's fault. He summoned a demon who basically came to collect his bride. And when the demon finds out that it's actually Xander, he just decides to waive that clause for this time.
I think my favorite episode was in season 2. We have Angelus, or Evil Angel. Buffy has been really struggling with him losing his soul. When they both get possessed at school by ghosts who have been possessing different people on repeat, reliving their death, the episode begins with several people being shot and killed by these ghosts possessing them. And then Buffy ends up getting possessed by the ghost of the boy who is doing the killing. She's been very unsympathetic to him, which is totally understandable. Angel is possessed by the boy's teacher that he is in love with. The teacher wants to change the ending of their story so they can both move on to the afterlife. She chose Angel because he was a vampire and couldn't die. So the boy ghost, he could shoot her, but she wouldn't die. After a heartbreaking scene where we see Buffy pull out a gun and shoot Angel, he falls off the balcony and she watches as he falls. The boy ghost, who is reliving his death, then goes to the band room to kill himself. The teacher, who did not die because vampire, goes to the band room and tells him that she still loves him and her death wasn't his fault. The ghosts then go into the afterlife together, and Buffy and Angel are back to being enemies. I think one of the reasons this episode stands out is because Buffy and Angel were chosen because of their love for each other that was turned sour, kind of like the teacher and the student. And that makes it an emotionally powerful episode. All right, so where in the media can you find her?
So I don't know if any of you have seen the New Mutants that came out last year, which was 2020. If you have, you might have noticed that while Ilyana Rasputin is being haunted by her nightmares, in the background on a TV they are playing a Buffy episode, the episode called Hush, which coincidentally, the creatures in Ilyana's nightmares look a lot like the creatures in Hush. She can, of course, also be found in the TV series Buffy and the movie, and also Dark Horse Comics.
She has some guest episodes in Angel, and in Buffy they consistently call themselves Scoobies, and coincidentally, Sarah Michelle Gellar plays Daphne in Scooby-Doo.
Earlier in the episode, we mentioned that she might not be the only Slayer in a long line of Slayers.
That's because at the end of season 1, she actually briefly dies. She's very quickly brought back through, I believe it was CPR, don't remember exactly. But that brief moment when she is dead is enough for the Slayer mantle to be passed on to a new Slayer. However, when she comes back, she still has all her Slayer powers and abilities.
So yeah, after she briefly died, we get to meet 2 new Slayers. One is there for, I think, about a season and a half or so.
I think it's less than a season.
Well, yeah, you would probably remember better than
It's
I
not
would.
very long, but I don't know.
She was actually pretty awesome and just a great addition to the show. And then after that, we get another Slayer after she dies, who is another great addition to the show, but kind of decides to take a villainous path for a little while before getting a redemption arc.
All right, so that's all we have for you. We hope you enjoyed our episode.
Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode.
And to women and girls the world over, be brave.